It began with the simplest of habits, one that might have meant nothing at all had I not noticed him first. Every Tuesday and Thursday afternoon, after my last lecture ended, I would take the long path through the park. The excuse I gave myself was that it helped clear my head before the crowded train ride home. But the truth was far less noble. There was a bench beneath the great oak tree, worn smooth by years of rain and sunlight, and on that bench sat a young man who had unknowingly rearranged the rhythm of my week. He always had the same leather-bound notebook resting across his knees. Sometimes his pencil flew across the page with restless certainty. Other times he stared into the middle distance, chewing thoughtfully at the eraser, his brow furrowed as if the world itself was refusing to let him capture it on paper. I never saw what he drew. I never dared to slow my steps long enough to look. Instead, I pretended to be absorbed in the music in my headphones, though the volume was often turned low so I could catch the faint scrape of his pencil against paper as I passed. I told myself it was silly, this infatuation with a stranger. Yet I began to notice details I had no right to know: the faded band shirt he wore beneath a fraying jacket, the way a single dimple appeared in his left cheek whenever he smiled at something only he could see, the tremor of his fingers when the autumn wind grew cold. And slowly, impossibly, a space inside my chest filled with him, though he had never once lifted his gaze to meet mine. One Tuesday, I hurried along the path late, the sky bruised purple as a storm gathered. My heart quickened as I neared the bench. But it was empty. A hollow ache spread through me, absurd and raw. He was nothing to me, I reminded myself, just a sketch of a man in passing, a fleeting detail in a city of millions. Still, I went home with a weight pressing on me heavier than the storm. The next Thursday, I almost didn't take the long way. What was the point? But something pulled me, habit, or hope, or the quiet desperation that clings to lonely hearts. And there he was. Not sketching this time. Just sitting, his notebook closed on his lap, his eyes fixed on the winding path. On me. I froze, every step a tremor in my bones. He stood as I approached, a cautious smile flickering across his face. Before I could breathe, he held out the notebook. My fingers shook as I took it, flipping to a fresh page. And there I was. Me, captured in delicate strokes of graphite, my hair caught by wind, my lips curved in the faintest smile. Underneath, a single word scrawled in careful script: finally. I should have walked away. That would have been the sensible thing. A polite smile, a nod, and then vanish back into the anonymity that kept us both safe. But curiosity, that cruelest of vices, pinned me to the spot. I studied the drawing again, my likeness rendered with startling precision. It wasn't just that he had captured the curve of my smile or the fall of my hair. It was the expression in my eyes, an expression I hadn't realized I wore. Something hopeful. Something lonely. How long? My voice came out too soft, trembling. How long have you been? He tilted his head, that dimple deepening for the briefest instant. Since the first time you walked past. My breath caught. The storm seemed to hold itself at the edge of the sky, waiting for my reply. You don't even know my name, I whispered. I don't need to. He spoke with such calm certainty that a chill danced down my spine. Then, after a pause, he added, but I would like to. I gave it to him, my name, the one I guarded more closely than I realized until I felt it on my tongue. He repeated it once, carefully, as though he were sketching the sound itself, and then smiled. From that day forward, the bench beneath the oak was no longer a place of silent observation. We spoke. At first, only brief exchanges. Weather, classes, trivial fragments of our lives. His name was Adrian. He studied architecture but claimed he had little passion for buildings. His true devotion was to faces, to the hidden maps behind people's eyes. You can read people, I teased one Thursday, watching as his pencil flew across the page. He looked up, serious. No, I don't read. I remember. The words unsettled me more than they should have, though I laughed it off. Weeks passed. I learned to look forward to our meetings, though I told no one. It felt fragile, secret, a thread I dared not expose to the sharp edges of the outside world. He showed me sketches sometimes, not all, never all, but enough to reveal the depth of his talent. Strangers from the park, a mother pushing a stroller, an old man feeding pigeons. But always, There were pages of me. Sometimes I was smiling, sometimes thoughtful, sometimes sad in ways I hadn't realized I appeared. "Do you follow me?" I asked once, half joking, half afraid. His pencil stilled. He didn't answer at first, and the silence stretched too long. Finally, he said, "I don't need to." Something in his gaze unsettled me. There was devotion there, yes, but also an intensity that felt too sharp, too knowing. That night, I dreamed of turning the pages of his notebook and finding not sketches of me as I was, but sketches of me in places I had never been. Standing at the edge of a darkened street, sitting in a room I did not recognize, lying beneath a sky I did not know. When I woke, the unease clung to me like smoke. And yet, the next Tuesday, I still found myself drawn back to the bench. The notebook. By November, the air had sharpened, brittle with frost. The park thinned of people, leaving only the most stubborn joggers and the two of us beneath the oak. Adrian greeted me with his usual calm smile, but something in him had shifted. His eyes carried a sleepless glint, and his sketches, when he allowed me to glimpse them, were no longer innocent observations. They were predictions. At first, I told myself it was coincidence. One Thursday, he showed me a sketch of me sitting on the very bench I stood beside, my scarf unraveling in the wind. I laughed, tugged at the scarf, and discovered a loose thread dangling exactly as he had drawn it. Another time, he flipped open the notebook to a page where I was depicted reaching to catch a falling coffee cup. Hours later, as I hurried out of a cafe, my own clumsy hands let slip the paper cup I carried. I caught it midair, freezing as the déjà vu clawed up my spine. You drew this before it happened," I murmured the next time we met. He didn't deny it. He simply looked at me with that unsettling patience. "I told you. I don't read. I remember." The words made no sense, yet the weight of them pressed hard against my chest. I should have walked away then, should have cut myself free from the strange gravity he exuded. But part of me was entranced, caught in the snare of his intensity, the strange beauty of being seen so completely. One evening, he held the notebook out to me again. My hands trembled as I opened to the newest page. And there I was, not in the park, not in any place I knew. I was in a darkened room, shadows coiling around my figure, eyes wide with fear. Behind me loomed a shape, blurred, indistinct, but menacing. My breath caught. "What is this?" His expression didn't change. "It hasn't happened yet." I snapped the notebook shut, panic and anger igniting. "Do you think this is funny? Some kind of twisted game?" Adrian's voice remained calm, steady, almost soothing. "I'm only showing you what will come. You deserve to be prepared." Prepared for what? The question clawed at me long after I left him on the bench, the image burning behind my eyes. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every creak of my apartment felt like a warning, every shadow in the corner seemed to stretch too long, too dark. By Tuesday, I had resolved not to go back. Enough was enough. But as I walked past the park gates, something, fear, or perhaps a darker form of longing, pulled me once more beneath the oak. Adrian sat waiting, as if he had known I would come despite myself. "You saw it, didn't you?" he asked softly. I couldn't bring myself to answer. He closed the notebook and placed it on the bench beside him. "You should see the rest," he whispered. My stomach turned cold. The rest? How many pages held versions of me, caught in futures I had yet to live? And what if one of those pages was the last?